In this lecture, we're going to be looking at those little chemical messengers in our body called hormones. Sometimes a hormonal imbalance is the missing link. I've had people say to me, but Barbara, I'm going to bed early, I'm drinking all my water, I'm exercising every day, I'm eating a plant-based diet. They're ticking all the boxes, and then when I investigate, I find out they have a hormonal imbalance. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to begin by going through some of the symptoms of a hormonal imbalance. Then we're going to look at how the monthly cycle runs, then what throws it out, and we're going to finish by looking at what brings it back into balance. Because the body is ever trying to get a correct balance. You just need to give it the right conditions. So what about a female? Some of the symptoms of a female having a hormonal imbalance are early periods. Normal is 16 to 18, but you hardly ever hear that today. Obviously, there's always some exceptions to the rule, but on a whole, the average beginning of the menstruation traditionally was around 16. Today, we're getting young girls getting their periods at 9 years of age. If they get their periods at 9, they're starting to develop breasts at 8. That's far too young. Why would that be? Where's our why? Newton's third law of motion states that to every action there's an equal and an opposite reaction. In other words, there is always a cause. We're going to be looking at that this morning. Another symptom of a hormonal imbalance is very heavy periods, very painful periods. Also premenstrual tension. How many women and men think that's normal? I've got some good news today. It is not. And we're going to look at how that can be remedied. Also fibroids in the uterus, cysts on the ovaries, polycystic ovarian syndrome, polyps in the uterus, cervical polyps, cervical cancers, lumps in the breasts, fibrous tissue in the breast, breast cancer, uterine cancer. These can all be symptoms of a hormonal imbalance. Also, depression can be a symptom. Thyroid problems, also heart disease. These are some of the symptoms, probably the main symptoms of someone having a hormonal imbalance, a female. What about a male? With a male, low sperm count can be a symptom. Also, inability to hold an erection. It's called PD, penile dysfunction. The current figures in Australia are 50% of men over the age of 40 are struggling with this one. Also, prostate problems. Prostate problems is a result of a hormonal imbalance. Well, again, there are other factors that come into play, as you will see, but it's one of the main causes. Too much of the female hormone can cause a man to be effeminate, and too much of the male hormone can cause a woman to be masculine. I don't know what it's like in the US, but in Australia you're almost not allowed to talk about that, but I'm just giving you the science today. So what we're going to do today is we're going to have a look at what the hormones or how they're made. We're going to have a look at how the monthly cycle runs. Notice our sex hormones are made from cholesterol, very important lipid in the body. From cholesterol, the body makes pregnenolone. From pregnenolone, the body makes progesterone. Progesterone is a key hormone because from progesterone, estrogen is made, from progesterone, testosterone is made, and from progesterone, the adrenal hormones are made. We're going to look at the 21-day, or 27-day, I should say, cycle, 27 or 28-day cycle. We're going to look at it like a dance, because it is like a dance. Different players come onto the stage at different times of the month. And estrogen's going to be wearing a red outfit, and estrogen's role is that of a cell proliferator. Cell proliferator basically causes massive cell growth. And it is estrogen that causes the skinny young girl to develop into a beautiful, shapely woman. But if the estrogen remains high, the beautiful, shapely woman can get out of shape the other way. Progesterone is the other player in our dance of the hormones today. And progesterone is going to be wearing a green outfit. Progesterone's role is that of a happy hormone. It's one of its... There's a few roles, as we'll see, but it's often called the happy hormone because of its ability to raise the mood. We have a saying in Australia, you may have it here, it's called happy wife, happy life. Is that right? I'd like to say happy wife, happy home. Many homes have an unhappy home because the woman has a hormonal imbalance and she's lacking progesterone. So let's begin at day 1 of the monthly cycle. At day 1 of the monthly cycle, this is the day that a woman begins to menstruate. Day 1 of the monthly cycle, the estrogen levels are low. Day 1 of the monthly cycle, the progesterone levels are low. So both hormones are backstage in that week that a woman begins to menstruate. But by the end of menstruation, around day 7, estrogen levels begin to rise. So by day 14, estrogen is now the star player in the dance of the hormones. What we're going to do now is we're going to go to the stage where the hormones are played out. And this is the reproductive area of a woman's body. This is the uterus, this is the cervix, this is the birth canal. These are the fallopian tubes on the side, so one on each side. But also down the bottom of the fallopian tubes, there are the ovaries. And the ovaries are connected to the uterus by a ligament. So they're the reproductive organs of a woman's body. At this time of the month, estrogen, with its cell proliferator action, is causing massive cell growth in the lining of the uterus, once again developing the blood nest, I call it. The tissue that lines the uterus is called endometrium. Massive cell growth is also happening in the ovaries, causing eggs to develop. A form of lubricant is also released in the birth canal. Now by day around 14 or 15, a fully developed egg bursts forth from the ovaries, and the little filaments on the end of the fallopian tube basically pick up the egg, and it moves up, up, up. The fallopian tubes are ever moving like that, causing that egg to move up. Now the hole where the egg bursts forth develops a blister, and that blister is called the corpus luteum. I have written it in green because corpus luteum is the main site of progesterone production in a woman's body. Can you see the importance of a woman ovulating every week? Because every month, when a woman ovulates every month, that's the release of the egg, corpus luteum's made. So when corpus luteum's made every month, then progesterone levels are maintained, and that's very important to keep the mood and also to keep balance of all the other hormones. So let's go back to our monthly cycle. So by day 14, with the development of corpus luteum, we've got a rise in progesterone levels. And because we have our egg, we have our blood nest, and we have our lubricant, estrogen's given the message and can go backstage now. So what effect does the rise in progesterone have? Progesterone has a ripening effect on the lining of the uterus, putting the finishing touches on the uterus. Progesterone also heightens a woman's mood at this time of the month to the point of increasing her sexual desire at this time of the month. But progesterone has another effect, and I'm going to draw it here. Here is the cervix. From side on, it looks like this gateway into the uterus. From top down, it looks like a little cushion. So it's a little soft cushion with a middle. And that middle contains a mucus plug. But at this time of the month, with the rise in progesterone, the lips come up a little tighter. The mucus plug releases, and a special form of lubricant is produced around the cervix, and that lubricant is designed specifically to facilitate the entry of sperm up into the uterus. So you can see that the stage is set for the entry of man. The sperm is the smallest cell in the human body, and with each ejaculation, between 200 and 500 million sperm are released with one ejaculation. But sometimes up to half of that comes out. So we're down to half, and if the sperm meet this cervix, it's very difficult to gain entry. If the sperm meet this cervix, this lubricant literally shoots it up into the uterus. and it's got a long journey. These sperm have a long journey. Some of them go down the wrong road and basically they die and they're taken away. But some of them go down the right road and aha, they've found their prize. I saw a photograph one day of 15 sperm all trying to gain entry into one egg. Now the surface of the egg has folds like this. And what the sperm has to do, it has to nestle its nose into one of those joins. It's not easy. Once it has gain entry, all the other folds shut tight and a chemical is released to kill off any other sperm that might try and gain entry. It's incredible what they know now about the human body. Occasionally, two sperm enter at the exact second. That's when the twins share the placenta. So what happens in pregnancy? The hormone levels change. Progesterone soars 200%. Don't we often say when a woman's pregnant, she's just blossoming? We have 3 estrogens in the body, only 1 progesterone. Estradiol is called E1. And estrone is called E2, and estriol is called E3. It is estradiol and estrone that have strong cell proliferator action, whereas estriol is often called the delicate estrogen, a little bit milder, and it is estriol levels that rise in pregnancy. Let me tell you something about sperm, because I think this is important to know and it is interesting. Sperm has an immune suppressant property. So when sperm enters a woman's body, it's an alien. And a woman's immune system will attack and wipe it out. So God put in the sperm, and actually it takes the immune suppressant property on when it goes through the prostate gland of a man. So when the immune suppressant property starts up, it's quite possible that the immune system can be knocked back. So there's a little bit of a battle there. Mm-hmm. And sperm would not survive if it didn't have that immune suppressant action. Can you see that? But the good news is woman's body has memory. So every time her husband's sperm enters her, her immune system rises. It sees familiarity. Oh, it's husband. We'll just stand back. But can you imagine how dangerous it can be in a woman that has multiple partners? And you can also see how dangerous it can be in the area of anal sex. It can really wipe out the immune system. So what causes the disruption? Before we look at what causes the disruption, if no conception happens, no pregnancy, then by tray 26, the levels are dropping both of progesterone and of estrogen. And when both those levels drop, the blood supply to the uterus is cut, and when the blood supply to the uterus is cut, then the blood nest comes away and we are once again at day 1 of the monthly cycle. That's how the cycle should look, but unfortunately today, not many cycles look like that. So our $1 million question is why? So let's have a look at what throws the hormones out of balance. 1957, the first contraceptive pill was introduced to women. The 1960s is called the sexual revolution. Women wanted to be able to have sex without having babies. And so the contraceptive pill was introduced. What is the pill? The pharmaceutical companies grow acres and acres of Mexican wild yam. In a laboratory, the plant chemical that's in Mexican wild yam is extracted. And in a laboratory, it's converted to progesterone. It's called progesterone because it has an identical molecular structure to the progesterone that the body makes. But the pharmaceutical company can't patent that. You know, they can't patent sodium bicarbonate either. So they have to change it. They have to create something else. So they come up with, they add a few more atoms to that progesterone and come up with synthetic estrogen. Add a few more atoms and come up with a synthetic progesterone. You see, in the early 1990s, it was acknowledged that estrogen is a known human carcinogen. And pill up until then was just straight estrogen. So by law they had to add some progesterone, but it's synthetic progesterone, so it really doesn't help a lot because it inhibits your progesterone uptake. So when these synthetic hormones, which are in the pill, are taken into the body, let me show you what's happening. So number 1 hormone should be progesterone, number 2 estrogen. Month after month on the pill, the body now thinks it's pregnant, so it doesn't release the egg. And if it doesn't release the egg, no corpus luteum's been made. So week after week after month, what's happening to progesterone? It's going down. A month after month with its synthetic estrogen, where's estrogen going? We've got a problem today, sadly too common. It's called estrogen dominance and progesterone deficiency. And it was Dr. John Lee that first blew the whistle on this. There have been some other doctors and authors that have also written about this. And he shows that now we have estrogen dominance. I liken estrogen to fire and water. Good slave, bad master. On 2019, I flew back into Australia, and when I drove onto our property, it was as black as black. I think you heard about the fires. We just thank God we didn't lose any buildings. That's why I say fire and water are a good slave, but it's a bad master. Same with estrogen. Now, we've got it as master. What effect is it having with its cell proliferator action? Fibroids in the uterus, cysts on the ovaries, polycystic ovarian syndrome, causing the endometrium to wander all through the abdominal wall. That's called endometriosis. 70 years ago, there were something like 100 cases worldwide. Today, there are 10 million alone in the US. And you will find it all rose around the time that the pill was introduced, because you can see how the pill disrupts the hormones. And a 25-year-old lady told me that she was just diagnosed with endometriosis. You see, when the blood nest falls away with the dropping of the hormones, these little pockets bleed, but they've got nowhere to go. And they have excruciating pain at period time, because all those little pockets have got nowhere to go, and the pain from that. This 25-year-old lady told me that her doctor said she'll be all right when she goes through menopause. Huh? 25 more years of pain and suffering. Or medicine can offer to diathermy, that's like burn them out. But if you don't turn the tap off, guess what? They're all going to come back. You've got to find the cause. So this cell proliferator action causing growths in the reproductive organs of the body, including the breasts, even to the point of breast cancer and also uterine cancer. A lady came and did our program. She had a lump in her breast 10 years ago, so she had both breasts removed, and they built 2 new breasts. Here she was at our retreat with breast cancer in the new breasts. If you don't find out the cause, it's going to come back. That's basic common sense. We're flipping into common sense now. See how we flip between Bible, history, science and common sense? Because God is the author of all of them, and you will find that they come together. That's how you can determine truth. But where's progesterone? Down here. How's the woman's mood the week before her periods? Watch out, she'll bite your head off. I said to one lady, do you get premenstrual tension? She said, no, I just hate my husband for a week every month. She's got it. How many people think it's normal? It is not normal. But also, going on a little bit further, then the person's diagnosed with depression. And it actually turns out to be just a hormonal imbalance. This is the cause of postnatal depression. This is the cause of premenstrual tension. There it is there. One writer in Australia, she claims that the pill has caused the mass murder of millions of women. So the woman's now going through menopause. You see, it was the baby boomers that it was first given to, is that right? The baby boomers are now late 50s, 60s, some into their 70s. They're going through menopause. How are they faring? They got hot flushes. High estrogen causes capillary dilation. The blood rushes to the skin. The husband knows because all the blankets get thrown off in the middle of the night, then they get pulled on again. One lady said to me, Barbara, I'm a CEO of a large company. I'm in the middle of a board meeting and I get this huge flush. And I'm perspiring. She said, I can't handle it. So she said, I went to the doctor and he gave me hormone replacement therapy. She said, at least now I can give a meeting without this flash. I understand that. But what is hormone replacement therapy? It's more synthetic hormones, tricking the body once again into thinking it's pregnant. So instead of putting its energies to the skin, it puts its energies internally. 6 years later, the lady's got a lump on her breast. She goes to the doctor, it's breast cancer. He takes her off HRT immediately. Why does he do that? He knows. So you say to the physician, why do you do that if you know it can cause breast cancer? Here's his answer. He said she was suffering and it brought her relief. That's true. And not every woman will get breast cancer. That's true. But it's like playing Russian roulette. And if you say to the lady, here's your choice, breast cancer or hot flushes, what will she say?
Hot flushes.
I'll get a black lace fan. We had a lady last week, she had her black lace fan. But what you're going to hear today is a third. And that is you can balance those hormones around. The amount of women that have said within 1 month of implementing this balancing program, they're not having hot flushes anymore, or they've reduced by half. That's the good news. Some women have never been on the pill or HRT and yet they have an obvious hormonal imbalance. What causes a chicken to be fully developed in 5 weeks? Do you ever wonder? Is the growth stimulants? It's against the law to give growth stimulants in many areas now, so they genetically modified the chicken to produce more estrogen so it'll grow quicker. If it's in the chicken, it's in the egg. And in Australia, it's against the law for cattle farmers to give their cattle growth stimulants. But a cattle farmer's wife told me, she said, once a month they're knocking on our door, pushing the growth stimulants. And they tell you to stop the growth stimulant here, then it's not picked up in the blood test at the abattoirs. So meat and its products are also another source of hormone disrupting substances coming into the human body. Number 3, because I've met some people who are vegetarians, they've never had the pill, there's more. What causes plastic to be soft? And when I was 16, my brother was 18 and he got his first car. It was a Zephyr. And the dashboard was second-hand. The dashboard was split. So he had turquoise fur on it and a cow that's head went up and down. That's real 60s, isn't it? Have you noticed dashboards don't split anymore? It's because they have a chemical in it called nonylphenol. And nonylphenol keeps the plastic soft. There's also bisphenol A, called BPA. Estrogen contains a phenyl ring, and that phenyl ring is the key that unlocks the door to get estrogen into the estrogen receptor site in the cell. So can you see that these plastics with their phenols in them have an estrogen effect on the body? So plastics. You can get BPA-free plastic, and you can also, usually the hard plastic, you know, you can't squeeze it. So drink bottles should be hard plastic, glass, or the stainless steels. Plastics, also chemicals, and probably one of the worst chemicals. And the reason why it's the worst is because to kill the plant, it actually has an effect on the plant's hormones. It's called glyphosate or Roundup. The Sri Lankan government have banned Roundup or glyphosate because of the amount of rice farmers that were dying and their children were showing traces of it. I know it was probably 2 years ago, made front lines in one of our big newspapers in Australia. 2 farmers, farmer and his wife, in their 70s, had both died of pancreatic cancer, and it was directly attributable to the Roundup. So what's the pancreas? It's actually part of our hormonal system. If you buy a potato and it's not organic, I can just about assure you it'll have Roundup on it, because they use Roundup to kill the top, you know, the top of the green top, because when that top dies, then they can harvest it. But absolutely, it's also, they've genetically modified so many plants to resist Roundup so they can keep spraying the fields. So herbicides, insecticides, I consider that they are just as much chemicals. One more point, clothes. Clothes can have chemicals in them if you're washing your clothes in a laundry detergent that contains chemicals. But there are 3 fabrics that are made really from plastic. One is polyester, acrylic, and nylon. So there's so many fabrics today. We know cotton and we know silk, but by the way, if you buy cotton, you must wash it and you must hang it on the clothesline for a day, because cotton is one of the most sprayed crops. So you've got cotton, wool, silk, bamboo. You may not be aware that rayon and viscose are both made out of wood pulp. So they're considered natural fibres. And modal, M-O-D-A-L. I've even got modal stockings. I've bought a modal petticoat. It's a very fine silky, and it's the cellulose spun from the birch tree. So the 3 that you need to be very mindful of are your acrylic, polyester and nylon. Now, with guys, their underwear's cotton, their undershirts are cotton. It's not such a big deal, but ladies like the pretty things. And unfortunately, a lot of those pretty things are made out of nasty materials, nasty fabrics. And when they're against the woman's body and she exercises and gets hot, her pores open, the fabric gets hot, and she starts to absorb those chemicals. But you have some great companies, I think Fruit of the Loom, they sell very nice sports bras and underwear that are made out of cotton. I don't mind if there's 5% polyester or nylon to give it a little bit of stretch, as long as predominantly it's made out of natural fibre. So let me give you the soy issue, because you will read articles that will say, if you have breast cancer, don't touch soy. You've read that?
Yes.
Prostate cancer. So let me give you the truth on this. Here are 3 cells, and these 3 cells have estrogen receptor sites. Now this estrogen is what we call xenoestrogen. So these here are xenoestrogen. So your chemicals, your herbicides, your insecticides, the plastics. These xenoestrogens, or estrogen mimickers, are 20,000 times stronger than human estrogen, so they're big. So how big is human estrogen? Human estrogen is 20,000 times stronger than plant. So the plant estrogen just sits very nicely into the receptor site like that. Well, what about the plant? Well, it's a tiny little slip of a thing that just lines the receptor site like that. So, students, is it the plant we need to be fearful of? No, 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 it's the chemicals that are the most. But let me tell you why many are saying the soy. Here's the soy being grown in America today. It's called Roundup Ready, which means it's been genetically modified to resist Roundup. First problem, it's been genetically modified. A farmer told me this. He said, we spray 5 times before harvest, all the weeds die, and the soybean keeps growing. That's a worry, isn't it? But you know what it means? That soybean has 5 doses of Roundup in it. That is a dangerous soybean. That soybean will increase prostate cancer and breast cancer, but not because of the natural estrogens that are in the soy, but because of the poisons that it is grown with. Now, the beauty of the plant estrogens, soy being, of course, probably one of the main ones, when it comes to the receptor site, it knocks on the door. Excuse me, do you need me? Remember Psalm 104 verse 14, God gave herbs for the service of man. So it knocks on the door and the cell says, no thanks, we got enough. So plant estrogen says, well, I'll just sit at the door. And can you see that it protects that receptor site now from any xenos that might come along? But if it knocks on the door and says, please come in, then it will come in. Medicine calls it synergism. It works with the needs of the body, and that's what the herbs do. So you can see that we don't need to fear soy. The only soy we need to keep away from really is the one that's been genetically modified and grown with poisons. So if you buy soy and it's organic, you can be just about 99% sure that it hasn't used genetically modified seed, because if an organic farmer uses the genetically modified seed, he loses his organic status. Before I have a look at what turns this around, estradiol and estrone, with their strong cell proliferator action, all of the xenoestrogens have that strong cell proliferator action, very similar to estradiol and estrone. So how can we turn this around? If you don't turn the tap off, you're still going to be mopping up in the other corner. If you don't find the cause, you will never have a cure. So number one, eliminate. Eliminate the pill. Well, how can we stop having babies popping up everywhere? Sex is two-part, contraception should be two-part. I believe the woman's role is to know when she is ovulating. My daughter showed me her phone. She's got an app on her phone now that tells her if she's safe or not safe. So what she does is she takes her temperature every day and puts it into the app on her phone. And this is what she'll find. Her temperature will do this, then it'll drop and go up onto a higher plane. And that is her sign that she has begun to ovulate. That's sign number one. So she just gets into the habit of taking her temperature before she gets out of bed every day. And some couples will do that if they're wanting to fall pregnant, so they know exactly we're about to be together quite often. So the second sign is that her vaginal lubricant changes. So when a woman is in the estrogen time, it's not as profuse, it's more white. When she is in estrogen, or she's stopped estrogen time, now she's in progesterone time, and progesterone is highest, then the lubricant is a lot more profuse, it's clear and stringy. The third sign is the cervix changes. So what she does is she just checks the vaginal lubricant every day, and then she checks what the cervix is doing every day. Now at first she's got nothing to compare it to, but as the weeks and the months go by, she starts to see a pattern. So she can, I mean, everyone does it on their phone now, don't they? I used to have charts I gave up, but we just do it on the phone now. And she will find that those three signs will come together, and most women will ovulate this week here. But what these signs do, they allow her to define the starting and the finishing. So what she says to her husband here, I am safe. Here, I am unsafe. Here, she's safe. Now, when she's unsafe, then it's the man's role to either use a condom or master the art of withdrawal. I was reading an article on Italian men, how they prided themselves in not getting their women pregnant by mastering the art of withdrawal. I love that, because they took responsibility, whereas I know in Australia, you know, for the last 40 years, it's been all on the woman. The woman has the pill or the IUD, or she has her tubes tied. But it started to come a little bit of a man, and he will have a vasectomy, which I do not agree with, because once you start cutting tubes, I wonder if a study has been done to show if the men that had vasectomies 20 years later are getting the prostate problems. You see, you can't start cutting tubes. My daughter and her husband Matthew, they were married for nearly 4 years before baby Amethyst appeared. How nice to have a few years together to establish a relationship before the little darlings appear that can make or break a marriage. So eliminate the pill, eliminate the HRT. It is too dangerous to take, but what you will see here is an alternative. Eliminate meat and its products. If you love meat and its products, well, it must be organic. One lady said, well, it's not going to be much if it's going to be organic. I said, well, you will prosper from that. We're going to show you how to make lentils taste fantastic. Plastics, I think it's impossible to totally eliminate it, but as much as possible, eliminate your body's exposure to it, and as much as possible, store your food in glass or ceramic or stainless steel. And chemicals, get the chemicals out of your homes. If someone has a baby, a great present is to buy, you call them diapers, yeah, we call them nappies. You can buy disposable nappies made out of starch. And Trader Joe's, places like that have it. Buy them a big packet of this. Buy them a stainless steel little bottle with a rubber teat. And you call it pacifier, we call them dummy. Cost you $15 to get a rubber one. But buy them a little package like that and a wooden rattle. How many rattles are plastic? So the children are just sucking on plastic all the time. And when they open the packet, they'll go, oh, this is an unusual present. And you know what you say? Yes, we're very concerned for your baby's sexuality. Because that's what's happening. You know, we think we've got problems now. You wait another 10 years. It's scary. So this is turning the tap off. Number 2, your liver has the ability to eliminate excess estrogen. And it can do it down one of 2 pathways. One pathway is the hydroxy 2 pathway. The other pathway is the hydroxy 16 pathway. If it comes down the hydroxy 2 pathway, it's out. If it comes down the hydroxy 16 pathway, it comes back in 100 times worse. So we don't want 16, we want 2. We're going to call it highway 2 and highway 16. So I'm going to show you a list of things you can do to stimulate 2 and inhibit 16. One is the cabbage family. The cabbage family contain indoles. You can pay $100 and get a supplement with indoles, or you can just eat cabbage every day. Cabbage or Brussels sprouts or broccoli or cauliflower, bok choy, kale. They all contain indoles, and you're probably not surprised to know that the organic has a far higher indole content compared to non-organic. What indoles do is they stimulate highway 2 and inhibit highway 16. Also, the vitamin B family, specifically B6, B9 and B12. B6, 9 and 12 all stimulate highway 2 and inhibit highway 16. Licorice, I'm not talking about the candy licorice, I'm talking about the herb licorice. If you have high blood pressure, don't use that one. Flaxseed. Flaxseed every day from when you start eating in a couple of days. We will feed you again. You'll be getting ground flaxseed. It contains lignans, and these lignans stimulate highway 2 and inhibit highway 16. It rings true of Hippocrates saying, let food be your medicine and medicine be your food. Number 3, Australia sells a cream called the Anna's Wild Yam Cream. The Anna's Wild Yam Cream contains a plant chemical called diosgenin. And when the diosgenin in that cream is applied to your skin, the fat cells take it up and it stimulates this pathway that your body uses to make progesterone. So the beauty of this cream is it stimulates your body to make its own progesterone. You can buy in the US progesterone cream, and I think if someone's having hot flushes every 15 minutes, they've just found out they've got breast cancer, they're not sleeping because insomnia is another sign of an imbalance, I think the progesterone cream can play a part initially, maybe for the first jar, maybe 4 months, but then it is important to go over to the Anna's so that you're applying a cream that will stimulate your body to do it. Whenever I come to the US, I meet women who've been on the progesterone cream for a couple of years. It's just not doing it anymore. But I find that most women respond well to the Anna's Wild Yam cream. It's working with your body. How do you apply it? One finger dip, so you put your finger in just past the nail bed. First time you might be the inside of the arms. It's twice a day. So morning might be inside of arms, evening might be chest. Next day it might be abdomen. Next evening it might be the inside of thighs. So you alternate the sites of application. And a woman applies this cream for 3 weeks a month. So it's these 3 weeks here. So the woman stops when she is menstruating. If she's not menstruating anymore, she chooses 1 week of the month where she does not apply the cream. A lot of ladies find that choosing the first or the last week of the month makes it just easier to remember. How long should a woman be on it? At least 1 year. One lady said to me, I tried this cream and it didn't work. I said, how long did you try it for? She said, 2 months. I said, well, this is what's happening after 2 months. Here's the imbalance. After 2 months, we're about here. Where do we want to be? We want to be here. The good news is if it took 20 years to get out of balance, it won't take 20 years to get back into balance, but it might take 1 or 2 years. If a woman is applying the cream and she stops after a year and say her hot flushes return, what's her body saying to her? A bit more, please. A bit more. And one lady said she tried it another 6 months, then stopped, and she had no more hot flushes. One lady told me that within 6 months, no, it wasn't 6 months. She said within 1 month of applying the cream, her blood loss had halved. How many ladies have had their uteruses taken out when all they really needed was to balance those hormones? I've also found that women respond well with thyroid problems. You see, high estrogen opposes thyroid problems. High estrogen opposes thyroid function. So a lot of ladies who are on the pill when they're in their teens, 20s, it's 30 years later, but the hormones are still out of balance. I've also met people who've gone onto the cream for their osteoporosis. Progesterone boosts bone building cells. They're your osteoblast cells. Strengthens the bones. There is no toxic dose of progesterone. Can you have too much happy hormone? I don't think so. But there's definitely a toxic dose of estrogen. I met a 9-year-old girl who was on it. She developed breasts at 8 and started menstruating at 9. So whether you're if you're between 9 or 90, this cream can be applicable for you. I've also met some ladies, particularly ladies, who've conquered their depression by going on the Anna's Yam cream and boosting their happy hormone. It is also important, this is point number 4, that the 8 laws of health are implemented, and we will be pursuing those from tomorrow. So that means all the stimulants must go.
What are they? What are the stimulants?
We'll define them tomorrow. We'll do your caffeine and your alcohols, your refined sugars. So I've written those 8 laws up there, and adhering to them brings balance naturally into the human body. And the yam cream just helps with that balancing of the hormones. If a woman is going through menopause, she's having hot flushes, she's got weight gain, she just cannot lose weight, the yam cream helps that because it gets the estrogen down, gets the progesterone up. And because it gets the progesterone up, it helps with her sexual desire, and it also helps with her mood. But there is 2 things that it will not affect immediately, and I find many women, 50s, 60s, this is happening to them, sex has become very painful. The cells that line the vagina are so sensitive and they've lost lubricant, and it's very hard for the man to see that his wife's hurting, and something's come along that is helping these women. So we'll put this as number 5, and this is yoni stones. The Chinese dynasty developed yoni stones to help the young concubines be sexually toned for the emperor. but they're very popular today, and ideally they're made out of nephrite jade. Nephrite jade is like a green marble. The nephrite jade is heavy, and as you'll see why that's important in a minute, but it's also a smooth marble, so there are no crevices. So when these are ordered, they're ordered in a set of 3. So this is the largest stone, it's about this big, and then they're like an egg. And then the next stone, and then the next stone, that's the smallest stone. There are 2 holes in the bottom so that a woman can insert dental floss for easy extraction. And what a woman will do is she'll insert the stone, the largest end first, so that will touch her cervix. She begins with the largest stone, and she will not even know it is there, but she will wear it for 1 hour a day for the first week, 2 hours a day for the second week, 3 hours a day for the third week, 4 hours a day for the fourth week, and on the 5th week she's up to wearing it 5 hours a day. And she wears it for 5 hours a day for about 6 months. By now her pelvic girdle is so strong that she can go over to the middle-sized stone, and she can go straight into wearing that for 5 hours a day. After 6 months, she can go to the smallest stone. This is strengthening her girdle, her pelvic girdle internally. So I'm going to draw the pelvic girdle so you know what I mean. Here's the pelvic girdle. There is the belly button, and up the other end is the bottom of your spine, the coccyx. So here's your anal sphincter, that's your vagina, and the urethra. So it looks like this. It's a muscular system, muscles threaded all through, but around the orifices, it's all muscle. So it's a muscular girdle, this pelvic girdle. And wearing that stone strengthens the girdle because it's got to hold the stone. And because it's got to hold the stone, more blood comes to the area. And where more blood comes to the area, it feeds the cells lining the vagina. It feeds the cells that make up the glands. So the glands begin producing lubricant. And I have had ladies tell me that after 3 months of wearing the stone, sex is no longer painful. The lubricant has returned. The cells are not delicate anymore. In fact, I had one couple in their late 50s. They looked a bit embarrassed. They say, look, we don't know how to say this, but thanks. He said, this yam cream just puts lead in my pencil. And the lady said, it is no longer uncomfortable. We just want to tell you we're thankful. What also is happening with the yoni stones and the effect it's having, remember it's strengthening that girdle internally. It's also helping with incontinence. Because here's the urethra, it's a muscle system. So wearing the stone, the stone is in the middle, of course, so it's strengthening all the muscles surrounding it. My daughter had a home birth. Her daughter's 10 now, and she had a midwife. And they got a blow-up bath and had a water birth inside her home. But her midwife, who was in her 50s, told her this story. She said, I went to the doctor, I was feeling so uncomfortable. See, what happens is with the prolapse, the uterus can drop right down to the neck of the birth canal. And the doctor said, I can stitch that up with mesh. And that's happening a lot today. But you might also have heard there's a lot of problems with the mesh. In fact, there's court cases pending because of what the mesh has done. In Australia, about a year ago, they won the court case and a lot of women had payouts because of the problems they'd have with the mesh. Is the mesh the problem? Do you know it's not? The doctors only use the mesh because the women's muscles are so weak. They've got nothing to sew it to. So do you know what the problem is? It's education. Women aren't keeping fit, so their muscles are weak. They're not eating nourishing food, so the cells aren't nourished. They're not hydrated. That's why I believe what Ellen White says in her book Ministry of Healing on page 127. She says the only hope of better things is the education of people in the right principles. We should be exercising every day. So externally, you can do rebounding, you can do push-ups. Have you seen the girls do push-ups? the twins? And you can do those exercises that strengthen the core. They will show you exercises that target the core. So that's external. And every day we should be doing this, okay? Squatting, up, down, up, down. It strengthens all that. And the internal stone. So my daughter's midwife, she didn't like the sound of the mesh, so she went and Googled prolapse, and she discovered yoni stones. She ordered them. She began to wear them. She went back to the doctor 3 months later. He said, I don't understand this, but you no longer have a prolapse. See, it's just muscle. And gravity's ever pulling us downward, isn't that right? And it's the defying of gravity that strengthens the muscles in the human body. So the yoni stones are changing the lives of many people. And I had 2 women do our program about a month apart. Both had a prolapse in their 50s. Both had the operation with the mesh. The mesh did not work. So they had to endure the discomfort of the continued prolapse with mesh as well until they could book in, because they had to go on a waiting list, to have a total hysterectomy. And they heard this and they said, oh, if only we'd known. If only we'd known that we could have strengthened our pelvic girdle. Because pelvic girdle is not often talked about, is it? No. And yet the pelvic girdle is something very important, that women maintain their pelvic girdle strength so that they can enjoy being intimate with their husbands and enjoy their latter years. Because remember, muscle knows no age. Thank you.